Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
As it's so flat there, we'll all be able to see her. All right, moving on. There's sweet Donnie D and Rich Hilke. The gorgeous Nicole Sakic has returned. Beelzebrad, nice to see you. Grandmaster, nice to have you back. Smokin' Joe, good to have you here. Looking lovely tonight. Virgil, where you been hiding? Good to see you. Who else we got here? Sensational Sherry, the lovely and talented Kira. Lee P, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Big Papa, welcome to our chat room for the first time. Thank you for joining us. And Cat Chaser, the lovely Cat Chaser, thank you for kicking off the Super Chat. The Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. So thank you so much for doing that. We're about 20 seconds away. Mama Susan, nice to see you. And let's see, who else do we have here? James Smith, good to have you here. Mondak, nice to see you. TMI, nice to have you back. Sovereign, how you doing, buddy? John Hudson, Reverend Keith, can I get an amen from you, Rev? Sorry, we're going to be sore throat all night long here, guys. Mike Palumbo, good to see you. We are caught up. Get your horns up. We're going to rock and roll here momentarily with Mr. Bumblefoot. We got a show to run. Let's do it right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right, here we go. Ron Felber, author of fiction and nonfiction books, including television and documentary films, but his biggest book has been the Mojave incident. Now, this one gets a little weird, people, because it talks about true details of a UFO encounter, aliens, and so much more. Ron began writing his career as a deputy sheriff, writing for True Detective magazine. He then went on to pen novels for the iconic Nick Carter series with titles such as The Blue Ice Affair, Death Mission Havana, and Blood Ultimatum. But it's all about UFOs and aliens tonight with our good friend Ron Felber, who's packing one seriously good-looking mustache. Ron, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How are you? Hold on, I got to get your mute off here. There we go. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing just fine, Dave. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. I'm going to apologize for my throat right off the bat because I am battling a cold. But for you, being a former police officer, did you always believe in UFOs?
No. Actually, it isn't something I thought a lot about. Like a lot of people, I grew up with Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone, and I always thought those kind of stories were interesting. But as far as UFOs, when I was a kid, there was a story called a book by Frank Edwards called UFOs Serious Business. And I took a look at that. And again, it was of interest. But as I grew older, went into business, went to school, etc., it was something that was very far from my mind.
So how do you go from police officer to a love of writing, which I can understand because I have a love of writing too.
Yeah.
Albeit my radio side is like 45 seconds. What can I jam into 45 seconds?
Yeah.
Whereas you're like writing novels and everything, which isn't fair because it's so different. It really is. But how did you go from transitioning from police officer to writer? Did you always have an interest in writing?
Oh, always. Yeah. I since the sixth grade, it was one of those things where a teacher, you hear sometimes a teacher changed somebody's life. I can really say that about my teacher in the sixth grade. We had essays to write, maybe about my summer vacation or who's my hero, etc. And I wrote a piece on the baseball player, Willie Mays. And she came up to me and said, this isn't the best paper, but it's the most unique paper. You have a talent for writing. And, at 12 or whatever age I was, those kind of things make a real impact. And it did. And I started writing short stories in the seventh grade, I guess, and got them published in my brother's high school magazine. So when I was in the seventh grade, seventh grade, I was writing stories that were getting published. So I had about 30 stories published in scholastic type magazines. And I won an award for best short story, national award. And then I really just started writing novels and had the good fortune when I was at Georgetown to meet William Peter Blatty, the author of The Exorcist, who really became a kind of mentor for me.
Wow. That's interesting. What was it like meeting him?
He's a great guy. I mean, he's passed away, unfortunately. And, I have to say, sometimes in your life, there's almost a brick removed, And that's kind of the way it was with Bill Blatty. He was a very intelligent guy, came from almost nothing, in New York, was the son of immigrants from Lebanon. His father deserted the family when he was a baby. And he got a scholarship to a high school, a prep school, then got a scholarship to Georgetown, was a comedy writer. And then he did a shot in the dark. He invented Inspector Clouseau, along with Blake Edwards, who was very funny, by the way. So then that kind of dried up. And in 1949, there was a story in the newspaper about a boy that was possessed. He put it in his wallet and carried it around with him. And in 1970 or so, he said, my comedy's not doing so well. Maybe I'll write a novel. So very bright. And for me, just very supportive.
What was your first novel?
I wrote a book. I won't tell you when. It's a long time ago. Anyway, I was maybe 21, I guess, something like that. And I wrote a book called The Indian Point Conspiracy. And it was about a nuclear reactor in Indian Point, New York, that terrorists took over. So it's not a bad little plot. Of course, the writing was a little primitive by my standards today.
So here you are, you're still a police officer, you decide to get into the writing game and kind of let your imagination flow. How much did the writing take a stress off a very stressful job? Because I know for a lot of people who have high-stress jobs like that, you need an outlet somewhere. A lot of people turn to the bottle. A lot of people turn to womanizing or whatever it may be. But for you turned to pen to paper and the typewriter and then eventually the computer. I mean, yes. How much of an outlet was that for you?
Well, I'll just tell you frankly, when I got out of college, I went to Georgetown. I was in debt. It was about $40,000 in debt from college loans. And my parents' home was the sort of collateral for it. So I needed to get a job. And it was just in the middle of a recession when these gas shortages, OPEC gas shortages, and lines for gasoline at stations. So they weren't hiring. And I needed to get a job. And at the time, being a deputy sheriff and transporting prisoners, which is what I did, paid a reasonable amount of money so I could pay my loans down. And I was not so happy about having to do that, given, all the money I spent on a degree. But in retrospect, it was probably the most important thing that ever happened to me in terms of writing. So in a way, it's a little turned. The people that I met, the criminals, the hitmen, the terrorists, guys that hijacked airplanes to Cuba and came back, very fascinating people. Not nice people, but fascinating people. So I started writing for True Detective, and really, in many of my stories, those characters, the way they talk, the way they act, they're things you can use. Norman Mailer says writers are like squirrels. They pack away acorns into their nest and then take them out one at a time when they need them. So that's what those stories were for me. When I was in the middle of writing a novel or a book, I said, this guy could be a good character, and so it goes like that.
For you, as you decided to start writing about true crime and the stories that go along with that, fiction and both nonfiction, how did you enter the UFO game?
I finally I did get a job and in business, and I was a division manager, they call it, for an industrial company, manufacturing company, and I had some salespeople under me. One of them was a young guy I hired in California, in Southern California, and we got to be very good friends. So when I was on the West Coast, we'd have lunch together and just talk about kids, talk about whatever, business mostly, actually. But he said, I know you're a writer, and I really like the way you write. I've read your stuff. I have a friend who I played football with in college. He's my best friend, and he's sort of a wreck, and so is his wife, because they have a secret. I promised him that I wouldn't tell anyone, but I know you so well, and I know them so well, and I think it would be a good thing if you met. So we did, and I was very reluctant. The first thing I said to him, I said, I don't do that kind of thing. It's just not what I do. I was doing spy novels. I was doing suspense thrillers. So UFOs were like, very far off in terms of a genre. So he introduced me to them, and I said, here are these two people, well-educated. The guy is a project manager for building shopping centers. So, he's handling millions of dollars. He's handling workers. This is just somebody. He's really a responsible person. They had two kids. The woman was, they met in college. He was a football star, all-state football star. And you say, why on earth would somebody invent a story? I mean, what is this going to do for him except cause ridicule and probably hurt his chances at his job, So I believed them. And they told me the most incredible story I've ever heard. And I decided to write the book mostly because of them. It wasn't something I ever thought about. Even when I first heard the story, I go, this is unbelievable. But then I took them to a National Center of Psychiatry in Washington, D.C. I had them evaluated for if they were prone to fantasy, if they were unstable in any way. It came back. These are like the backbone of America, very, very solid people. And then I had them retrogressed by an FBI hypnotist that I got in contact with, who was good enough to do the work. And what came out of all of this is an incredible book, I think, The Mojave Incident, and an incredible story. And I would say beyond that, an important story.
We're going to get into that story as we progress here in the show. I just want to continue to learn about you. How much, as a non-believer to the UFO phenomena, did this change you personally?
Well, for one thing, I find at this point, since I've delved into it, once you write a book like this, you're sort of in the circle where you hear a lot of things, you watch a lot of things because you become fascinated by the topic. And what changed is, first of all, I think the evidence for UFOs, for extraterrestrial craft visiting Earth is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Any judge sitting on a bench, if they looked at this evidence, would say, certainly it's possible, it's probable, and it's almost certain.
So, how enlightening was that for you? Like, I mean, I could just imagine what it was like. I've always been on the side that UFOs are real, even before my encounters. So for you as a non-believer, as a guy who's all about the facts, because that's the way you have to be as a police officer, I mean, did it send you for a little bit of a loop? Did you get some sleepless nights or just sit around scratching your head saying, what the hell did I get myself into here?
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, I guess a fairly analytical guy, and maybe a bit of a detective in that sense. I want to investigate and find out what's true. And so you look for facts, you look for holes in stories, you look for inconsistencies. And the more I looked into it, the more I just couldn't find anything that would discredit them, and many, many things that would lead you to believe that they were telling the truth and that this really happened. What people say all the time is, well, I believe that you believe it happened. Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying what the retrogressive hypnotist said. I believe that everything you're saying happened to you. It's not a matter of thinking it happened to you. It happened to you. And that's where I came to the conclusion, this is real. Then I started to look into more evidence about all this. And I have to say, you become a little obsessed with it. And I suspect that it's not a conversation everybody in a company, let's say, would want to talk about, but it's something you want to talk about because you think you found a truth that's very important that people seem oblivious to. And that's almost scary.
What was your inner circle like when you told me you were writing a UFO book?
Well, these are business guys. They thought I was kind of crazy, I think. And at first they thought, it was, I don't know, maybe a comedy or something, It just wasn't in my DNA to do something like that. But as they realized it was true, and I had tapes and whatnot, recordings and hypnotic sessions, which I shared with a couple of people. None of them, I have to say, I don't think I convinced anybody that UFOs are real. Of course, this was a while ago, and I think a lot of things have changed. But the people that are skeptics, and even just people that aren't skeptics, it's almost hard to comprehend that they're unfazed. I mean, these things may be the biggest story in the history of humankind. And it's like, oh, yeah, I think I'll have the cheese sandwich. It just doesn't register. And I find that astounding.
So this story is going back a few years now. And over the past number of years, we've had major changes in the UFO world, especially the last 4 years, where all of a sudden there's a lot of people with egg on their face who are now understanding that this major conspiracy theory about spaceships and potentially life from elsewhere is no longer a tinfoil hat subject anymore. How has this changed your outlook moving forward? Do you follow the subject quite closely now? Or was it, I've done the book, I'm a believer now, I don't need to do any more?
No, I think my girlfriend would tell you, I watch everything that's on TV, anything on the YouTube, any article I can get my hands on. Like I said, it becomes a bit of an obsession. And, it was funny. I was just watching a show, and the comedian, Jackie Gleason.
Yes.
He was a fanatic about UFOs and had a very interesting story to tell. But it's like, I guess it's like, the word fan probably comes from fanatic. But you become a fan of the topic. And I know I devour anything that has anything to do with it because I think it's important. I think it's, incredibly important.
From an outsider's perspective, then, what do you think the truth is when it comes to UFOs?
Well, that's kind of a long story, but I'll give you the short answer.
We have 5 minutes, so you can go as long as you want.
I think that I'll give I think that there's an evolution that's gone on let's say since the 40s, 49, 47, where people are desensitized. And I think that this is almost, for example, have some photographs taken of flying saucers, as they call them, flying discs over the Himalayas. So fine, that's a grainy photo. It's in Life magazine or whatever. You hear about Roswell, but many years later, and that in situation. Then you hear other people say, I saw this object. You see them on the news or something. I'm talking about now the 50s, let's say. Then in the 60s, and it becomes a popular topic. It's something that people talk about a lot and are curious about. Then you have the Betty and Barney Hill story, where they were abducted and they were retrogressed, and they had, again, very credible people. And then you have what's gone on more recently with the Pentagon. These are all steps that move closer and closer to a major encounter, in my view, between extraterrestrials and human beings.
Do you ever think that we are going to get to that point where there is some sort of disclosure? I was reading a comment by George Knapp today on Twitter, who basically said, we're still a long ways from any sort of disclosure type movement, but we are traveling pretty much in the right direction. What do you think about that? What do you feel about the purpose of disclosure? Is it real? Is it something that we should be striving for, or is it just impossible?
No, I think it's more than possible. I think it's going to happen. And my bet would be that it's going to happen if you have children and you're a certain age, let's say 50, just to put out a number. If you have kids and you're 50, I think in their lifetime, there will be a major, not disclosure, there'll be a major encounter. And I think that's what this is moving inexorably towards.
And I think so too. Do you think society, though, as we got about 3 minutes left, is ready for any kind of disclosure?
Introducing Peacock, the new free streaming service from NBC Universal. It's hit movies, current shows, live sports, trending bits, and timeless hits. And that's why you can't not watch. Peacock. Watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com. Law & Order SVU streaming now.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
I always like to use the example with our audience, Ron. I look at the way we've treated people through COVID. And I don't talk a lot of COVID here. I don't care either way. But, if you look at everything, we've all seen the videos of people hoarding toilet paper, buying $2,000 worth of meat even though they don't need it, hoarding milk and all sorts of types of products, treating the neighbor like they're garbage, and become very introverted. What is your opinion on that? Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, sure I do. I think it's going to happen whether those people want it to happen or not. I think it's just even now, even as we sit here today, I think this is in your face. I think this is like somebody nudging you, from the back and say, "Hey, I'm here. Look at this." And some people and many people understand what's going on. Many people are curious and maybe don't quite understand or maybe don't quite comprehend, the weight of this. But I think it's going to happen one way or the other. And I think there'll be a couple of major events that lead up to it.
You think so?
And one of them is the Pentagon already. Yeah.
Well, it all depends. See, my big thing with it all is I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think there are so many secrets that the U.S. government has with this phenomena that they're trying to figure out a path where they don't have to give out those secrets. So true disclosure may be a straight line, but the U.S. government wants to take this big detour around. So that way we don't need to know about Roswell. We don't need to know about Phoenix. We don't need to know about Kecksburg or what's happened with crash retrievals, whether or not we have contact. And that contact has been happening since the 1940s. I think there are so many secrets that they are trying to protect that there's no way we'll ever get the true truth.
I agree. I don't think so. And it almost seems like governments generally around the world, you talk about freedom, free speech, et cetera, are more likely to hold things back than ever before. There's a kind of iron fist mentality around the world, and I think the odds of that of the disclosure coming from the governments is very very slim. I think the way it'll happen is literally people say, "I want a UFO and a little man to walk out on the White House lawn." I think that's going to happen.
Well, on that note, I'm going to let you sit right there. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Author Ronald Felber is our guest tonight. The Mojave incident, what happened in the desert, California. We'll find out. Let's talk aliens. Let's talk UFOs. Yes, here we can still say aliens, people. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. I'm surviving so far. I'm surviving.
Yeah, you're struggling through a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we'll make it, though. We'll make it. Thank you, Dirt Road, for that awesome super chat, my friend. And thank you, Space Cow and Murray and Kat. Really appreciate it. There we go. All right. We got 5 minutes. 5 minutes here just to hang out. Now, our YouTube audience and our Twitch audience can hear us. So,
okay.
Just let you know.
Well, I appreciate this. I really enjoyed the questions are very, very good ones, and it's fun to answer them.
Well, thank you. We're only going to get more interesting now.
I think so.
Absolutely.
This was the warm-up, huh?
Well, you know what? I never. The one thing I learned a long time ago about this show is I never ask the good questions right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Reason why is A, a lot of guests are very nervous, and B, the audience trickles in, and once we hit about that bottom of the hour, the majority of our audience is already tuned in.
I see.
So there's no point in asking that first half hour. The really poignant questions when we and then people miss it, because then all of a sudden I'll get questions later on in the show. Can Ron answer this? And be like, he answered that in the first half hour, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a great format. It's a great format.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We do our best here.
So are commercials running now, or how does that go? Is there are you waiting?
We have to time everything out to our radio side of things.
Oh, I see.
So that's kind of the way we do it. So this show will run tomorrow night on our radio affiliates. We have 6 radio affiliates. So I have to time everything out to their timing. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And gorgeous Jenny turned 70 just 2 days ago, or yesterday. Happy birthday, Jenny. We love you around here, and you're here every night with us, and we absolutely love you. Happy birthday on behalf of all of us at Spaced Out Radio. Much love, my dear.
So, Dave, I'm going to get some water, if that's okay.
Yeah, you go ahead. We've got 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. That's a nice kitchen. So a big thank you to birthday Jenny, the gorgeous Kira, Sally, our Dutch princess, the lovely Dirt Road, Murray, Space Cow, and Cat. Oh, gosh. I hope I make it tonight. I really do. Thank goodness I got lots of cough candies. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Yes, Downshift. We used to go live on our radio programs, but it works better if they play it the night after. So we've been playing it the night after for about a year now since we picked up the affiliate in Mississauga. Kaiju, how you doing? Yes, Ron is retired from law enforcement. And who else we got here? Nose vaping with Dave, yes. Vicks Inhaler is a godsend for radio people. Vicks Inhaler. It's a beautiful thing. All right, we have about 45 seconds.
Okay.
Grady Strickland, flash forward. How you doing, guys? Good morning there, Commonwealth Andrew. 20 seconds. Remember, a big way to support what we do on this nightly basis is hit that subscribe button, ring that bell if you haven't already. We are here 7 days a week for your listening ears. The Super Chat is open, a great way to support what we do. And you know what? If you go to our website, spacedoutradio.com/shop, we got some very, very nice swag for you. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Author Ron Felber is here. He's got a great book out called The Mojave Incident. Deals with a family, UFOs, extraterrestrials. Now, in the first half hour, Ron, so we bring you in now, you were telling us that you didn't believe in this subject. You didn't believe that this phenomenon was real. You were pretty much like everybody else out there who thinks it's just a bunch of tinfoil hat-wearing weirdos. And then you found out it was real. So take us to the introduction of your book and the family and how you learned about this story.
Yeah, I had a friend that worked with me, and his name was Paul Moran, as a matter of fact. And he lived in Los Angeles. I was on the East Coast at the time. And we became friendly over time. And if I was out on the West Coast, we would have lunch or dinner or whatever. And he introduced me to his best friend, who he played football with in college at the University of Redlands, and told me he had an experience. He told me also that he was sort of sworn to secrecy because these people didn't really want to talk about it. But knowing that I was a writer and knowing that his friend and his wife were really in desperate straits psychologically after having gone through this experience, he thought it would be good for both of us to meet. And I did meet them, and I was incredibly impressed with just how straightforward, how responsible, how not prone to exaggeration or fantasy or anything like that. Just almost the backbone of America kind of of people, and they told me their story, and as fantastic as it was, piece by piece, I became more convinced that they were telling the truth, that this really happened, and there was no other explanation for it but the one they came to, which was they had an alien encounter.
So when did this event happen?
It happened October 1989, the 21st and the 22nd, October 21st and 22nd, 1989. And I can tell you a little bit how it happened. Is that it? Yeah. They, the Giffords are their names, and it was a couple, had two children, and the mother, the wife was a new mother, and as you might imagine with little children, she was sort of anxious to get out of the house and do something exciting that wasn't being a mother or a housewife. And so he, on the other hand, was a hunter. He had a great job. He was a project manager for constructing shopping malls, which is a very responsible job. And he was a hunter. His father would take him hunting, his brother as well. And the season before, he had missed a shot at a mule deer. And his father and brother were relentless in teasing him about it. So as competitive as this fellow was, a former college football player, he wanted to get that mule deer. So they were sort of at odds as to what to do. So they decided to do both. They were going to go into the Mojave Desert, and he would do his hunting, but she would go with him to a place called Whiskey Pete's, which was along the way. They'd camp at Midland's campsite and then go into the Mojave. So both of them would pretty much get what they wanted. That was the compromise they worked out.
Okay, so here they go into the Mojave, and it's obviously in the middle of fall. What were they doing? Where were they going at that time?
Yeah, this is these coincidences. It's funny when you see things happen from a distance, from a little bit of a distance, and over time, you say, "Well, gee, that's an amazing coincidence." That isn't the way it felt to them at the time, but this Midlands campsite where they were going to stay for the night after going to Whiskey Pete's, so they went to the Midlands campsite with their camper, and were going to stay. It's never full. It's that's really unheard of. But when they got there, it was full, and they were waved along, and they couldn't spend the night there. So Steve, being the pioneer, let's call it, the guy that's going to move things forward, said, "Look, let's go into the desert. We have our camper. We have some steaks. We have, we'll make a fire. We'll have a romantic, time in the desert. We'll do stargazing.
Sure.
Have some food, and make the best of it." So his wife agreed, and they went into the desert.
And why wouldn't you? I mean, why not? A romantic night of under the stars in the middle of the desert. I mean, that just sounds like a fantastic time.
Yeah, but it turned out not to be.
and this is where you add in but Dave, there's more.
What happened? This is these are again, the coincidence was the one thing. So then they get in the desert, and they do exactly that. They make a campfire, and again, the husband, Tom, was good at that. He was an outdoorsman, and his wife Elise, sort of followed along. In any case, they made a campfire. They had their camper there. They cooked up some steaks, and interesting, but he thinks he sees something out of the corner of his eye. Now, it's a mountainous area. It's in the New York mountains, surround the desert. The Tabletop Mountain is in front of them, and there's a smaller mountain to the side. And he glances over and thinks to himself, "Did I just see something?" Now, his wife is already a little nervous because they're in the middle of the desert alone. She's heard and read articles that, gangs, motorcycle gangs and whatnot meet there and do drugs or have drugs and transport, that people get killed there, because of the isolation of it. It can attract sort of outlaw people. So she was nervous about being held up, maybe raped or whatever. That was in the back of her mind, being so isolated as they were. So what he did see, because it popped out again, almost like a game, was a UFO.
Oh, wow.
And this would be 300-400 feet away, incredibly visible. And when he sees it, it goes back. He doesn't want to say anything to Elise because she's already nervous. And can you imagine if he told her that? So he sort of plays it down. But then he notices there's no sound in the desert. They had been feeding, I guess they're squirrel type, creatures, animals that are in the desert. They were feeding bread to them, it's just as a sort of game. There were a lot of sounds in the desert at night that you wouldn't imagine, but there are. And all of a sudden they stop. He's thinking back to a time when he was 12 years old, when he sees this object. When he was 12 years old, he was fishing with a friend, another 12-year-old, and they saw a light in the sky. The light in the sky approached and approached and approached, and they were looking at it like, that's really strange. But then they got really frightened. And so they ran. They ran back to the campsite as this thing was approaching, almost hovering over them. And they tell their parents, and their parents are there having a good time, of course, with other parents. And, they discard what they say. They don't take it seriously. But that's the first thing that crashes into Tom's mind when he sees that UFO behind the mountain. And now the situation is more than tense.
As a big, rough, tough football player, I mean, this guy is used to a lot of rough stuff.
Yep.
I mean, how was he feeling? I believe Mr. Gifford is his name. And
yes.
How was he feeling through all of this? How was he able to hold it together for his wife and his family?
Well, you're right. He is a tough guy, and he is a really responsible guy. Just one of those people that I don't know if you were in a foxhole and being attacked by somebody, you would want him next to you. He keeps his wits about him, and he's sort of a man's man. I mean, in that sense. So he's shocked and frightened, but he's also stoic about it. He doesn't want to alarm Elise, his wife. He doesn't want to do that because who knows where that would go. It could just ruin everything. And maybe he thinks to himself, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I just saw something. I don't know. But it was very clear. So the sound has stopped. They're looking at stars now. And so Tom knows a lot about the outdoors. So he's pointing out to his wife, well, this is this star and this is this constellation. And you see that's a double star. And so she's looking, identifying these constellations and stars with him. And then she says, if that's a double star, that must be a triple star because it was larger and brighter than anything in the sky. So he thinks about it a bit, makes the connection between that a little bit and the UFO that he saw previously. And they watch stunned as that one object becomes 9 objects. And the 9 objects form an M configuration over the mountaintop that they're staring out at, which is about 300 yards or so, 400 yards away. No, not that far, 200 yards away. So they can see this M. It's 9 bright orbs. That's not bad enough. They start blinking at one another, like a kind of communication. So Elise says to him,
Fall is the season of gathering that brings us together with warmth and color. So whether it's a birthday, anniversary, or a special event, celebrate your friends and family with a gorgeous bouquet of roses from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to brighten someone's day with 24 multicolored roses for just $39.99. To get 24 multicolored roses for just $39.99, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
What is going on? Do you think we're in the middle of some military exercise because there were some bases around? I don't know. Then he says, well, maybe it's some other country or something. There were some rumblings in the Middle East at that time, Operation Desert Storm. Maybe it's a army exercise, and these are some kind of secret craft. Well, the 9 become hundreds. And then they start dropping to the ground. They drop to the ground as these white orbs. They're looking straight at them. And then they see red eyes, that these white orbs either are carrying or are a kind of gremlins. That's the way they describe it. And they have red eyes, and they're onrushing towards them. Now, Tom's adrenaline and survival instinct kicks in, so he runs to the camper, gets his Ithaca shotgun and a 7mm Browning rifle, and he says, whatever it is, I'm going to defend us. So, of course, Elise's wife is petrified, and so is he. And they get this telepathic message. Her first. She's much more sensitive to communications and just detail than he is. It's just the way it is. Maybe it's just, a female thing versus a male thing. I don't know. But she goes, they don't want you. They don't want you to fight. It's useless. They want you to go in back of the camper. They want us to go in the back of the camper. And that keeps repeating, go in her head. And then he drops his weapon or puts his weapon to the side, lowers it, and he hears the same thing. And as if sort of hypnotized, they go into the back of the camper. And in the back of the camper, they sit Indian style, him with the gun across his legs, his lap, and 2, they call them monitors. So these 2 sort of electrical, whether I won't call them beings, objects, let's say, are in the camper's tailgate, and they can't move. Every time he moves to get out, they move forward, and he gets a tremendous jolt of electricity, an electric shock. So they're really trapped. They have no way of getting out.
It's like their camper's now a prison cell.
Exactly.
By these little electrical beings that look like gremlins with red eyes.
The electrical beings are the monitors and the guards, let's call them. These other gremlin-type beings they said almost like monkeys or that kind of thing. Frenetic. But evil. They felt like this was not a good thing, not a pleasant thing. And literally, they're going over the camper. They're in the trees, hundreds of them. And the wife says to Tom, "Is this real?" He says, "Pinch me. I'll pinch you. Do you feel that?" Yeah, we're not dreaming. And they're terrified, of course, absolutely terrified. Their hearts are pumping like you can't believe. And he says, "Tell me what you see right now." And he describes it to her, and she describes it to him, so they're on the same page. They're looking at the same things, just to question the reality of things. Then a very interesting thing happens, and probably the most important. The point I want to make is this story is almost like a veil or a curtain being pulled up on a new reality, on a different reality. It's very large in scope. So what happens then is a craft comes over them. The craft is so big, it covers the valley. He estimated that it was the size of a football field. And as Fife Symington, the former governor of Arizona, has said, having a similar sighting of an object the size of a football field, there is no craft that size or that magnitude that can get in the air. There's no craft that we have that can even resemble this. Hanging on the underbelly are 9 smaller craft, smaller UFO type crafts, saucer type crafts. A beam of light comes down, and now they see around them the most terrifying thing you could imagine. These illuminated beings, and the way they describe them is they're bright as light, not yellow light, white light. And they have the torsos maybe of a 5-year-old. They have spindly legs, spindly arms, eyes, large bulbous eyes that don't have pupils, not eyes like your eyes or mine, alien eyes. They surround the camper. And now, just imagine, there's this craft above them. They're locked in this camper. They're surrounded by 9 of these illuminated beings. And they start getting telepathic messages from those beings. But around that same time, the beam of light starts sucking things up into it. Cactus, trees, cattle, whatever, insects, sucks these things up into it. So they're watching this thing scour the desert basin. And another sort of triangular, smaller, very small compared to the craft, they called it the searcher. It's a triangular thing with red, white, and amber lights. And it was combing the basin of the desert as if they were looking to mine something, like to test what's under the ground and bring it up. As it turns out, Alumax does mine in that area, and they're rare earths and elements that are used in laser weaponry, etc. So they think maybe that. So in the meantime, just imagine again, this searcher is combing the desert floor. This UFO caps the valley with a beam that in diameter is probably about 100 feet, sucking things up into it. These gremlin-type beings are all around them, and these 9 illuminated figures surround the camper. The telepathic messages they get, it's almost like they put a syringe in their brain and sucked out experiences. So it was a kind of torture. But if you think about what we would do to a laboratory animal or a laboratory specimen, you don't look at it, I suppose, if you're dissecting a frog, this poor frog. I don't think that scientists look at it that way. That was the mode that they were in. That they were animals in a zoo. They were bacteria under a microscope. And these images that they're getting, some are jubilant, some are scary, some are terrifying, some are humiliating. For example, Elise had been assaulted when she was a child by a man in a park. Obviously a terrifying, terrible experience that you'll always remember, and a scar. She was made to relive that whole experience. the husband, Tom, was a football player, as I mentioned. So he has, like he's in a football field in a stadium where he played, and people are cheering him. She has another experience where she's giving birth, but then she sees that the baby isn't there. She drifts into another room, and she sees the baby surrounded by alien beings, and just incredibly frightening. He is made to feel like he's the hunted, being a hunter. So he's being chased by hunters. He's shot, wounded. They track him down. They skin him. So from things that are like exalting to things that are humiliating to things that are downright terrifying, they put them through a set of emotions.
No kidding.
High to low, that just is mind-racking, mind-bending.
This is way heavier than I ever expected, man.
Sorry.
Way heavier than I ever expected.
It's the story.
Well, I understand that, and I think it leads to as we come to a close here in the first hour of the show tonight, Ron Felber is our guest talking about the Mojave incident. I think it opens up a lot of questions, a lot of entertainment to what you're going to explain in the second half of this encounter as we continue on. I mean, wow. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I completely have goosebumps listening to Ron tell this story. Remember, there's no triple stars out there, people. If you see one, you got some serious aliens happening at that point. Really, really do. And we're going to continue on here with Spaced Out Radio. Ron Felber is our guest tonight on the Mighty SOR. You can find all of his books on Amazon. He's got some great crime-fighting books, as well as the Mojave incident, which we are talking about tonight. Stay tuned. We're going to find out what happened to the Giffords in the Mojave Desert back in 1989 when we return on Spaced Out Radio. All right, my friend, I'm going to put your microphone on mute. I'm just going to step away and grab some hot tea, okay?
Sure, absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Do this. I'm going to get some water.
We got about 6 minutes.
6. Okay, fine.
All right, be right back, audience. Wrong microphone. I'll be right back, audience. All right. Now I know how long it takes to boil water. Sorry about that.
So you feeling a little better?
Oh, I got my tea here. Yep.
Good.
I do. Hopefully it'll taste good. I don't think I mixed it very well, but that's all right. Hi, Stevie Franchise. How you doing? Gorgeous Marie, Auntie Entity, welcome to our channel. Ross Smith, how you doing? The lovely Jennifer Hawkins, good to see you. Grady Strickland, nice to have you back. Aunt Linda, what's happening? And we're going to get going here in 20 seconds. Thank you to everybody in the Super Chat. We really appreciate the love and support. That's a good way to support what we do. Thank you to all the veterans out there tuning us in. We really appreciate it, and I apologize. I'm not feeling very well. But that's okay. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is at the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Salmagundi. Salmagundi is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading out on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Ron Felber, the Mojave incident. If you missed the first hour of the show, especially the last half hour, wow. It's going to freak you out. And his book called The Mojave Incident can be found on Amazon with his others. Ron, welcome back.
Good to be back.
All right. Now, right before the break, we were talking about aliens starting to surround the camper. And things are getting weird, and they can't move. They're trapped by these electric beings. And, oh, man, I'm just pumped right up here. Take us through the second part of this, man.
Sure. It's no less intense. So the illuminated beings, which I've described as, raven black eyes, not eyes like yours or mine, no pupils, spindly body, maybe the torso of a 5-year-old or so, but bright white light, brighter than anything they'd seen. 9 of them surround the camper. They're trapped. He has a gun across his legs, which he can't use. There are 2 monitors, electric monitors. So if he moves forward, he gets a tremendous shock from them. So really, they are trapped. At the same time, and this is almost like an orchestration. Like I said, there's sort of a universe of reality exposed. This searcher, this triangular craft, is combing the desert, apparently looking for something, looking for maybe rare earth metals, like it's mining. They hear around this time, with the mothership capping them, these gremlin creatures, frenetic, climbing on the camper, climbing in the trees, hundreds of them. They are getting memories, some good, some incredibly terrifying, and some altered to be terrifying in their minds. Like mind-shattering things about maybe being accosted, a woman, Elise, being accosted as a child. Other memories, like hunting in the woods with his father and brother. This would be Tom. But other things where he's being hunted. And so
Peacock is streaming your favorite shows, movies, live sports, breaking news, exclusive originals, and every live WWE pay-per-view. It's The Office, Chris Lee Knows Best, and Peacock original shows like Punky Brewster. Peacock, watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
And actually shot and skinned. So these things are made, it seems, to emote emotions, fear, exultation, laughter, all of the emotions, the range of emotions that humans experience. So literally, they're in the camper, sobbing, laughing. They're each going through their situations, and it seems like these illuminated figures are scientists, and they're probing their minds to find out how human emotions work. Because apparently that's something that later on she finds out and we find out that's something that is of great interest to them, the way the human mind works and emotions. The mining operation that I mentioned was going on continues, but now they get an odor like phosphorus or sulfur or rubber burning, a very heavy odor. And they can feel a drill, like a drilling, shaking the earth around them. In the meantime, the mothership has a beam that's shot down about 100 feet in diameter, sucking things up into the craft. As I mentioned, trees, animals, cactus, anything that's there that's of interest. And they're terrified. Their hearts are pounding, and they think they're going to have heart attacks. So they're really on the verge of a cardiac arrest, and they know it. And then a kind of fog comes in. A kind of fog comes into the camper, which is a kind of anesthesia, I guess. But basically what it does is calm them down. Physically and mentally, it calms them down. They're still terrified, but they're not so terrified that they're going to die of a heart attack. And the insidious part of this, it isn't because they have some pity. It's because they want to keep them alive to experiment more. So if you think about a laboratory animal being experimented on by a scientist, the scientist doesn't say, gee, I wonder if this animal has offspring. I wonder what this animal's life was like. No. They're interested in the lung. They're interested in the kidney. They're interested in the brain. They're interested in the reproductive systems. That's what this was like. So basically, they're terrified. They're in the back. All of these things, this tremendous orchestration of things is going on around them. Now they're a little bit more calmed down, and they see these things start to recede. And just as they think, my God, they're going away, they come back again in force. And again, it's almost like to find out how they react to one thing versus the other. So again, they feel like they're in hell. They feel like they died and are in hell. That's what they're thinking. That's what they said they're thinking. Actually, I could read a quote. Do you mind?
Please go right ahead.
Let's see where it is. Here. They wanted everything we had, everything. Our minds, our bodies, even our souls. It was like they drew it out of us with a syringe, every molecule, and it was painful. And I thought we were going to die, or had already died, and were being tortured in hell. That comes from Elise Griffith during one of the recording sessions I had with him. So the trauma is more than you could imagine and intense. Now, this is what I mean about an orchestration. They see then, as again, they think they've lost their minds and probably on the verge of losing their minds. They see an angelic presence come from the clouds, a feminine presence. They could feel that. They called it their comforter. and it's an angel, like an angel has descended. The message they get is, it's going to be all right. This will be over. You will survive. They thought their kids were in jeopardy at the home.
Yeah, and this is what I was wondering. Where are the children at this time? Because they have 2 young ones.
Yeah, they're being watched by the grandparents, by Tom's father and mother at the residence in La Mirada.
Okay. So all of a sudden I was having like a panic attack there that the children were in the camper as well. Oh my goodness.
They wind up being involved, but not in the camper.
Oh my goodness.
So this angelic presence is really of interest to me because, I mean, you can take this from a lot of angles, this sort of story. The fact that there's an angelic presence that says everything will be all right, a comforter and whatnot, is almost religious. I mean, it's a religious figure, at least stereotypically. The gremlins, evil. I mean, for sure, evil. The scientists. So, I mean, you could almost look at this as a kind of biblical story, some crazy biblical story, or you could look at it as some encounter of massive magnitude. So they now feel like they're sort of pacified, calmer, maybe even drugged. And they feel the earth shaking from this mining operation. And they see the probe with the 100-foot diameter of light that's sucking things up, start to bring the camper up. And that's all they remember. They wake up the next morning. The campfire is out, so obviously time has gone by. It's the morning. They think this is what they think because of the times, I suppose. They think the Russians have dropped bombs. They think this is the end of the world. Maybe in a theological sense, angels, devils, all like that. Or maybe it's just the military, at the end of the world has come. That's what they're thinking. And they're thinking that every broadcast, if they can get a broadcast on the radio, will be about this. They turn on the radio expecting to hear about this incredible situation. I think it's global. And there's not a word about it. There's a country western song playing and that's it. They start to leave. And, of course, they're incredibly shaken. There's an elderly couple that's, more towards the campsite, but at least closer to where they were. They said, "Did you see anything last night?" Because they're really reluctant to say what they saw. And the older couple says, we didn't see anything. We went to bed pretty early, so we didn't see anything. They go home, and it doesn't end there. They're plagued with horrible nightmares. Some of them where they're surrounded, their bed is surrounded by these alien creatures. Some where their son, Tom Jr., is about 4 years old. And he has his own room. And they hear him screaming. So they come out, run into his room, and he's spinning like a top. So Elise grabs him, hugs him, and he's inconsolable. He says, "There are monsters. There are monsters in my room." And she says, "There are no monsters." And he says, "Oh, there are. They're little and they have red eyes." Now she's angry. She starts screaming, "You can do what you want to us, but leave my children alone. Leave my children out of this." And they have flashbacks. And in these flashbacks, for example, they have memories, Tom, of fighting these beings, like going on a kind of, in airports they have that that walk thing where you walk and it pushes you forward. I can't recall what they call it. But he feels like he's on that, battling these creatures in his nightmares. She feels like the bed, like they're making love, and the bed is surrounded by these things. And she goes, he had no intention of having sex that night. Neither did he, but they did. And she looks at her husband and says, I'm pregnant. And he goes, that's unlikely. He goes, no, I'm pregnant. I know it. And they felt all the while that these things were watching them in their own home. And so every creak in the wood, every clank in a radiator, really has meaning to them. It really is upsetting them. And they're beside themselves, and probably, neurotic wouldn't cover the base. Something much, much more than that. Maybe a lot like what war veterans come back with, and that's what one of the doctors that I took them to, PDS or whatever,
PTSD.
Yeah, that PTSD. That's what they were suffering from, like war veterans, people that had seen atrocities in combat. That's what, when he examined them, that's what they were suffering from. So this is where I stepped in. This is where I came into the picture. So they're, in a frenzy. They have no interest. Tom all of a sudden has no interest in going to work. He just is lethargic. She is panicked that these things are in her house and they're watching them. They always feel like they're being watched. So it's a kind of hell on earth for both of them. Like after you've experienced that, let's just say it happened to you, building a shopping mall is not high on your list of things to do. It's, this is like catastrophic, or it's a major event in human history. And it pales, anything beside it, pales by comparison. So that's the state they were in when I met them. And my friend Paul Moran introduced me to them, and this would have been Tom's best friend. And I heard this story. I taped it, because I wanted the real words to use for the book, real dialogue. And some of the dialogue is incredible. But that's where I stepped in. And I said to myself, look, this is something important. Now, not every person is going to think it's important because, as we discussed earlier, a lot of people are just oblivious to all of this. And no matter what you did, no matter what you showed them, it wouldn't convince them. It would, if there was some alien that appeared, they'd say, oh, it was a fake. It was doctored, or this wasn't real. Or I had a bad night last night and, I was whatever. So sort of the non-believers probably will stay non-believers and the believers will stay believers. But I became a believer in what they said. And I decided that if I was going to do this, because it was important, I didn't care what I had to spend. I wanted to take them to the best psychiatrist that I knew of, and that would have been at the Washington Institute of Study of Psychiatric Disorders, and that would have been Dr. Vitone, a Georgetown University medical school graduate, who checked them out for 2 days. They took all kinds of tests, and they were as anxious to do this as I was, because they wanted answers. They didn't know what happened to them after they felt the camper coming up towards the mothercraft. So he tested them, all the standard psychiatric tests. He came back. He said, these are very normal people, a little more intelligent than most, et cetera, but normal.
I would like to ask a question, if you don't mind. When you approached the psychiatrist for the psychiatric evaluation of the Giffords, a lot of psychiatrists do not believe in this phenomena. How did you approach the subject about saying, look, these people have had something extraordinary happen? Did you keep it vague? Did you tell him what happened? Or did you just let him figure it out on his own?
I told him. I didn't tell him the story in an elaborate fashion that I'm discussing it now, but I gave him the spine of the story, let's say. And I just said his name was Bernard Vitone, Dr. Bernard Vitone. I said, Bernie, because I knew him from Georgetown. I said, Bernie, this is really an incredible account. It's not a story, it's an account. And I think you'll want to get to the bottom of this as well. So I want to include you in this. And I know that you could be a key element in telling us, is this some fantasy? Evaluate them. Are they neurotic? Are they psychotic? Are they prone to fantasy? Who are these people psychologically? And that's how I approached it. And both doctors that I worked with took it on as a kind of challenge. They didn't laugh. I mean, these are guys that see a lot of things. One was an FBI retrogressive hypnotist and psychologist, and the other, was heading up a psychiatric disorder clinic, the National Center. So they've seen a lot of things in their lifetime, I'm sure. And so they were curious, I'd say. Curious.
How did the Giffords feel about going to a psychiatrist to see if they were just plain loco and losing it, or that this was a real experience? Were they worried about any bias towards their experience or against?
Well, they were very concerned about their perception. That's why they didn't want anyone to know. I mean, he felt like he'd lose his job if he told anybody about this. She felt like she'd lose her friends if anybody, the story is a fantastic one. Both it's fantastic and it's fantastic. But to tell somebody cold, this is what happened to me, they're just going to move away. They're just going to move away. And so they were really concerned about that. As far as being examined by these doctors, I told them their credentials. I showed them their credentials, which are really substantial. And, they're really experts, national experts in their field. And they wanted to find out. They're having these bone-crushing nightmares, that just, they can't sleep, they can't eat, they have no interest in anything. They're just, surviving. So they wanted to find out what happened themselves. So they were, I won't say anxious. I mean, I have to say that Elise was less enthusiastic, let's say, than her husband. But they did it because they couldn't live without knowing what happened.
Mm-hmm. What did the results say from the psychiatric assessment?
Yeah.
We got 90 seconds.
Yeah, it came out that really these were responsible people, that they were a little above average intelligence, that their cognitive abilities were good, that they had no brain dysfunction, physical brain dysfunction, that they were not prone to fantasy. As a matter of fact, Tom was just the opposite, really a bread and butter, stone by stone kind of guy. So, this added tremendously. They took a lie detector test as well, passed with flying colors. So makes it more credible to me. That's how I felt.
Did it make the Giffords feel more comfortable to know that they weren't psychotic, that they weren't having,
absolutely, they almost cried. Elise almost cried. She goes, "It's so good to know that we're not crazy." They questioned themselves, and they were happy about the result.
And I think that's what a lot of people forget in all of this, is the people who are experiencing this phenomena, they're more critical on themselves than anybody, any scientist or any doctor or any critic could be.
Yeah. They have nothing to gain and everything to lose. And so I felt flattered that they trusted me enough with the story.
I don't blame you. We're going to continue with this story because there are so many questions, Ron, when we come back. I mean, from the children to, I know our audience has some questions built up for you, and we'll get them to ask those questions in the chat room as well when we come back. I mean, this is just an absolutely incredible, true story called The Mojave Incident by Ron Felber. And I'm telling you, you want this book for your library. This is a good one. Can be found on Amazon. Ron promises his mustache will autograph the book because it's a great lip blade. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I'm not going to lie. I'm very jealous of your mustache. I can't grow a mustache worth shit.
No, it's not that good in person. It just does well over these
sure.
telecasts.
Sure.
So how much time do we have now?
We got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Good. I think it's going well. I hope you agree.
Oh, my friend, I am just enthralled. I love stories like this.
Well,
if I could do stories like this nightly, it would be incredible.
Yeah. You should wait till we get to the hypnotic sessions. I mean, not only does it provide questions, it provides answers.
Yeah.
And that's really unusual.
Yeah. I wish I could.
Everybody has questions. Not too many people have answers, right?
Well, I think that's why we're all tuned in, is we all want answers for everything. You know, we all want answered.
Well, I think this is a glimpse, really a glimpse into some truth. That's what I think.
Now, is the Giffords the real name, or did you use a pseudonym?
No, that's why I stumbled once or twice on the first names.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. I didn't even catch it.
Yeah, it's Steve and Dawn Hess.
Yeah. Now, for them, for the Giffords, we'll call them the Giffords.
Yes.
For them, do they are they completely out of it? Are they still having experiences?
You know, I've talked to them since, but maybe this is over time, and just things change. Your life changes, everything changes over 10 years or longer. I kept in touch with them, and we did a couple of talk shows together.
For 40 years, Michael Myers has haunted this town. He's the essence of evil, and evil dies tonight.
Halloween Kills, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. In theaters and streaming only on Peacock now.
Fall is a season of gathering that brings us together with warmth and color. So whether it's a birthday, anniversary, or a special event, celebrate your friends and family with a gorgeous bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to find your reason and brighten someone's day with exclusive offers and great values on bouquets and arrangements. To order today, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/tune-in. They proceeded in their lives and tried to bury this pretty much, meaning this is not something they really want to talk about.
Right.
They became devout Mormons, and they moved to Utah, and their bishop's interpretation of this was a theological one, a biblical one.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't discount. The thing about this is, it happened, okay? You know what happened, but then you say, what does it mean? What does it mean? What am I catching a glimpse of exactly?
I think every experiencer, myself included, wants to know that. What does it mean? Why me?
Yeah.
I started a nightly radio show over it. Right?
So you're going to talk about your encounter, or is that something? Yeah.
I'll fill you in privately. I've said it too much.
Yeah.
Years.
Right.
Now their children would be in their early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. Now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they have productive lives, and I don't know this was a glimpse inside them too.
Yeah.
They're giving a glimpse into their soul. That doesn't happen often, and if it does happen, it doesn't happen for long.
Yeah.
So over time, our relationship became I'm the author, the subject of the book, rather than, this is what I'm feeling this is, what's happened to me last night.
Yeah.
That situation, just ran its course.
Yeah. I mean, I think every experiencer who has woken up on the table or found marks on them or whatever, I think we all kind of want to know what is up. I think we really do. And I'm a firm believer, and I don't know, I'll put some tinfoil on my head here when I say this, but I'm a firm believer that there are parts of government agencies in the world that actually know who's been taken and who hasn't. I really do believe that.
Yep. I think that's entirely possible. I have some sections, if it's okay to read, which is real dialogue from the tapes, which is really kind of incredible.
Yeah, please. I would love you to.
Good.
We have about 45 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Chad, Spooky, Flash Forward, Jenny on her birthday, Kira, Sally, Dirt Road, Murray, Space Cow, and Cat Chaser for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis here on the show, so thank you so much. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning on in. You always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio, so thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And, of course, all our regulars who are here, excuse me, we appreciate you as well. Don't forget, you can get all of your SOR swag. Go to our website, spacedoutradio.com/shop. We got t-shirts, hoodies, everything you can imagine hanging on out. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder, all of our archives are free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Check out our swag, rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with author Ron Felber, The Mojave Incident. If you have missed portions of this show, I'm telling you, you're going to want to rewind this one and check it on out about the Gifford family being abducted by extraterrestrials in the Mojave Desert. They get home, find out that their son is being visited by monsters with little red beady eyes. Ron, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. If it's okay, Dave, we've had a lot of questions, I'm sure, that come up. But I have some actual answers that come out of these interviews, which are pretty stunning. But I wanted to start with that. We mentioned that they felt like they were being watched.
Yes.
So this comes directly from the tapes. So it's about 4 weeks after their encounter, and Tom, the husband, is having nightmares, and he thinks he sees like several beings around their bed. Then the vision is gone, and there's just one remaining. And this is from the tapes. The being is 4 feet tall. He wears a white luminous uniform with an upturned arrow on the chest. He has no facial features, no mouth or lips, only slits. He passes directly through the wall. He stands behind the headboard. He stays there, passes his 3 long fingers over Elise's face, over and over. Tom can only see the hand. He opens his eyes, and directly above him is the face of the white being. "You're dreaming," he hears the voice say. Then he looks to Elise's face and sees the burn marks its fingers have left. "Hey, wait a minute," Tom says aloud. "This is no dream." He turned to Elise and gasped. He was awake. He knew he was awake, and Elise had the burn marks all over her face. Elise's eyes open. The expression on Tom's face scares her. What is it?" "Go to the mirror," he urges her. "Go to the mirror now." Elise walked to the wall mirror above the chiffonier. "My God, what is this?" she screamed. Tom, what have they done? They've burned my face." "That's all right," he said, and holding her close to him. "It's going to be okay." He eased away from her. Now you just stay right here, sweetheart, while I go to get a camera. He gets a camera, takes pictures. They're black when he takes them, so they don't come out at all. And the next morning, the burn marks are gone. But this is the kind of torture that they're experiencing, and it's no small thing.
I had that happen once.
Is that true?
Not with burns, but with scratches on my back. I woke up one night or one morning, and my partner says to me, "What are those scratches on your back?" I had 2 scratches about 4 or 5 inches long, about an inch apart, and they were stutter scratches. You know how a cat scratches?
Yeah.
It's stutter scratches. And I said, I remember saying, I got to get a picture of this. I have no idea what happened. I go to the bathroom, I do my thing, I totally forget, walk out, eat breakfast, start my day. 4 hours later, I remember that I forgot to take the picture of the scratches, walk back into my bedroom, turn my back, position my phone, scratches are gone. Not even a mark.
Yeah.
No scarring, nothing. It's amazing.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. It freaks me
You
out.
feel violated. I'm sure you feel violated,
At times. I just want to know what's going on, much like
All right.
everybody else.
I'm going to see if we can
All right.
put some answers forward.
Here we go.
So this is Elise and Tom. Now, I brought them to a Dr. William Annixter, and he's in Asheville, North Carolina. And he was a former FBI retrogressive hypnotist and a psychiatrist. He would do that, so if there were, a terrorist bombing or something, and interview witnesses, they don't remember because of the trauma. The hypnosis would get information out of them. So they're hypnotized now. I'm in the room, and the doctor and Tom and Elise. So Dr. Annixter turned in his seat toward Elise, who sat with her body lax, head tilted to one side, lying on her right shoulder. Elise, do you have any idea what these beings want or why they're here? It was macabre watching as Elise sprang up in her chair, suddenly animated and alert. Her voice, rather than soft and emotional, took on a new cadence, which was clipped and direct, quite unlike her. They want to make contact with the population. Tom and I are specimens, imperfect like the human race. When we're ready to communicate with them face to face, then possibly the world will be too. Her actions, such as edging forward in her chair at the moment, seemed mechanical, as did her voice as she continued. They have to study our reactions, so they know how to approach us. They don't have emotions like ours, so they need us to teach them. They need to understand humans. Do you have some sense, this is the doctor, do you have some sense as to who they are and where they've come from? This is Elise. There are 5 galaxies. Theirs is the next closest. In order for all 5 galaxies to work together one day, they have to start, and they're starting with us, so we'll be united galaxies. What else do you know? The doctor asked, feeling as if he was in contact with someone other than Elise. I know where the universe ends, she said, rattling the words off in staccato fashion, like rounds from a machine gun. Is that something you can put into words? Now there was no denying something incredible was happening. Elise says, our universe ends where theirs begins. Our universe ends when all its matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them. Everyone in the room looked to one another, stunned at what they heard and what they were seeing. I think that's an incredible statement. I'll read it again because it's complicated. And can you imagine somebody just rattling this off?
It's almost like she was channeling that answer.
Yeah, exactly. Our universe ends where theirs begins. Our universe ends when all its matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them. When we stop caring about what we're doing, when we stop caring about the earth, they'll start caring about the earth.
Wow.
That's what I said.
I mean, that, you know what, though? That's pretty profound, considering
profound.
when you look at a lot of other experiencers out there, a lot of the downloads and information they seem to get from extraterrestrials is about the planet and the state of the planet and how we're treating the planet like
Exactly.
our own wasteland.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, so the fact that they're saying our galaxy ends where theirs begins
Yeah.
is when we start treating it better. So that actually makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. It's like you say, profound, and stated in almost Shakespearean terms. I mean, that's a turn of words and turn of meanings that's very complicated, you know?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it. It sounded like she was channeling that, not being regressed, but actually channeling.
It felt that way. So if you want to, I'll go on with
Yeah,
some
please.
of the...
Please do.
So the doctor says, if these beings are in contact with you, tell me what you know about them. Now, this is where it gets almost theological. God created our world in his image, but not theirs or any of the others. The doctor, are there many different kinds of beings? Elise, yes, different ones, different hybrids. When do you think this communication will happen between the aliens and humans? I don't know. In my lifetime? How long will you live? The hairs on the back of my neck raised. In a normal man's lifetime. Our children's, she said at last. It was then that I had the distinct feeling that I was in a chess match of words. Elise had begun to take satisfaction in the cleverness and the sharpness of her responses. Are we watched as a population regularly? Yes. By many different kinds of beings? Sent on a mission from the One Supreme. What does that mean? There's one Supreme Being that controls all of them. He sends missions here. They're not here of their own accord. This is like a president or like a god. What else do you know about the One Supreme? The beings could care less if they were here or not. They're just following orders. I was thinking then, where do I take this from here, you know? So you talk about the universe and matter earlier. You said our universe ends where theirs begins, and then she picks it up. Our universe ends when its matter stops mattering to us and starts mattering to them. I reflected briefly on what Tom had said concerning their intervention into our world if war or mass destruction seemed imminent. What does that mean? I don't know. The missions these aliens are on are friendly or unfriendly. They're neutral. They could care less. What does the One Supreme want? For all the galaxies to live harmoniously together. Do we have a separate God from the One Supreme? No. What else do you know about this entity? Is it a being like the others? Read the Bible. I know.
Read the Bible.
Yeah, that's what she says.
I don't see anybody, and maybe it's just me. I don't see anybody under hypnosis saying that. It just sounds too contrived. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I still think she was channeling.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good try. I mean, it sounds like it wasn't her. I'll grant you that. None of this sounded like it was her. I mean, you know somebody after you interview them for 2 years. And, you know, when I saw this person hypnotized, this was like, you know, sitting forward in a chair, very clipped language, very clever sort of language. You know, when will they appear? Will they appear in my lifetime? How long are you going to live? I mean, that's not, you know, the normal dialogue.
Were you sitting in on this?
Oh, yeah, I was asking some questions. At some point in time, I asked the doctor, Dr. Annixter, if I could ask them questions. And he said yes. So I did.
Question from Big Willie, who has a fantastic beard, by the way. Without telling us, if you guys are not comfortable, that's fine. Have they ever come to a conclusion about their daughter's origins then?
Yeah, that's really a good question. And actually, I was talking to Dave about something like that. They really, frankly, this is what happened. They became very religious. I mean, the comfort that drove them was religion. That's what they flew to, I guess, as a kind of comfort. And they became Mormons and moved to the Salt Lake City area. And they talked to their bishop, who suggested they not discuss this with anyone or their personal matters publicly, and also told them that what they witnessed was devils and angels, and that it was a religious experience that they had. That's so they what happened to the child really is not something that I had access to.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least you were in there firsthand, watching them go through this. What caught you off guard by their regression?
The directness of their answers. As I mentioned, everybody has questions about all this, but these are pretty much answers. When is this going to happen? In your children's lifetime. When is this major encounter? That's a pretty direct answer. What is their mission? To unite these 5 galaxies. That's a pretty direct answer. Who is the one supreme? Is it like kind of a president? Like a god? And she says that like a god, like not right. Emphatically, let's say.
So Kaiju is asking, I was going to ask this as well, was there any kind of government involvement in this case?
No, absolutely not. No. I mean, it's just so amazing. If something happened to you, let's say the craziest thing in the world, I don't know, make it up, and you went to, I don't know who, the police? I mean, who do you go to? The mayor of the town? You go to the governor? I mean, they're just not going to believe you.
Right.
And so the government had no involvement with the case. And if they did know anything, and it's almost unimaginable that with the scope of all of this, that someone didn't know, whether it's radar or this or that. There were military bases, not so far from where this happened. They are in the Mojave, and there are some military bases. You'd have to think that a lot like the sightings that you see or hear about that the Pentagon just released, that there were radar, that they were on radar, that there were blips that could be seen. But if there were, they sure weren't going to tell me about it.
All right. So as you continue on here, are they still having experiences? Do we know?
I don't. My impression and my belief is that this never goes away. This is something you just live with. Like, for example, I mentioned it's like a veteran coming back from a horrendous experience in the war. Or maybe you watch your friends murdered and blown up and this and that, just, atrocities. And they come back and they don't talk about it. This is something they just keep inside, but it doesn't go away.
Very true. Very true. At any point, Ron, and we're going to get back into the story here momentarily as we got about 7 minutes to go. At any point, did they feel like they were being your personal guinea pigs towards trying to figure out what was going on, or did they just go with the flow with you because they wanted to know what was happening and you were providing professional people for them?
I think that certainly initially they were just in a quandary. So he couldn't work, she couldn't eat, they couldn't sleep at night, and these are all symptomatic of traumatic catastrophe that they experienced. So that makes all kinds of sense. And they were looking for answers too. At that time, when I first met them, there was half of the story that was missing. They didn't know. They were just having flashbacks to certain elements of the story. So they wanted to know too. And so I don't think they thought I was exploiting them. I think, we became, friendly and friends, I suppose. And I don't think they thought that. But I will say this. Over time, and I think, basically other people, maybe the bishop from this church, was really more for keeping this to yourself. This is a personal experience, an encounter that you had. This isn't for, to make movies about or this or that. And around that.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Lee Tractor Company. On the web at leetractor.net.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
That time, I would say that our communication became less frequent.
Does that bother you that it went that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it always bothers somebody if, you have a friend or friends and all of a sudden, or even over time, if you're still, in that mode to be friends and all of a sudden they turn sort of cold. Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Going back to when they were in the desert that night, did they know what happened with anything that was being pulled off the surface, like the cactuses or the rocks or anything?
To them, it looked absolutely undisturbed. The campfire was out. Their clothes were a little tasseled, and I think basically they were in a state of shock. They were more interested, as opposed to, but they did go back. I should tell you that, but they were more interested in, I guess, first of all, getting away. Second of all, like I mentioned, they thought it was the end of the world. They thought, some atomic bomb had gone off or some huge event had happened, and they wanted to know about it. So the first thing they did was go to the radio. Like, what did we? Everybody must have experienced this. It was too big for just us to have experienced it, and so I think that's the first thing they did. So I don't think they inspected things, but my guess is that if they did, it would be like the scratch marks you talked about or the burn marks with Elise. It would be normal.
Right. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. We got about 3.5 minutes here before we have to go to break. At the top of the hour, Ron Felber, the Mojave incident is what we are discussing tonight. Ron, I mean, you talked a little bit about the children. They're now fully adult. Do we know if they are still having experiences?
I can't say, but again, I can speculate. And I think they've done the best they can to keep this to themselves. Now, they did share the book with their kids. They had to, because of this can't be a secret, and they didn't want it to be a secret. And I think from all of their points of view, they've just learned to live with it. Now, do they still have nightmares? Do they still feel like they're being watched? Yes. Yeah. Up till 2 years later, and I know that they were still feeling this this sense of being watched. As a matter of fact, Tom has a quote about that. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Just bear with me a second, please.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. She goes, talking about them in terms of whether they're evil or what they are. Here we go, right? I'm going to get this. Here. Here's what he says, and this is a direct quote. Do you know what it's like to want to protect your family every day and every night and know that you can't even protect yourself? Because whether you see them or not, you can feel them, and it's like they live inside you, inside your brain, and they can do whatever they want, when they want, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Tom Gifford. I mean, I think that sums it up. I think that tells you, I mean, it's like inside them.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I would assume, and granted on assumption only, that they are still having those type of experiences. It just
I would too.
And what they're doing is, I think they're hiding behind their Mormonism now, in order to try and maybe relinquish some of that fear or whatever it may be. I mean, that's the feeling that I have. I mean, I could be completely wrong. What do they think about you still going around after all these years talking about this story?
I think they know that, I'm a writer. They knew that that's what I do, and they know that this is what I do. So I don't think they have a problem with it. I think if they had a preference, this would all stay like right from the beginning. This is not something they really wanted to share, but they were involved in the book. They saw the book well before it was published, et cetera. So it wasn't like I just did it. But I think particularly since they were counseled. I think that they would probably prefer that this not be speculated. And actually, I don't use their real names for that reason.
Right. And I think this is one of those stories, though, that needs to be told. Has Hollywood, as we got about 20 seconds left, has Hollywood ever called about this?
I had some interest in it, and I've done some other things. Some of my books have been TV shows, and one of them is being filmed now. That's a nonfiction book. There's been some interest in it, but no, it hasn't sold to the movies or to television. But Paranormal Witness did an hour segment on it.
Right. All right, we have Ron Felber for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Going to continue the UFO talk. Where does he go from here? What else is going on? Then we have John Hudson, Shirky Poo's News. Thought of the day, hour 3 is next. This is just fantastic.
Yeah, I have a quote that I'll read from Norman Mailer. It's just a short quote, but it sums up one of the possibilities. There are two possibilities that I see. One is these are extraterrestrial visitors, and a lot of the biblical stories and whatnot have been misinterpretations of this events like this. Mm-hmm. The other is that there really is a one supreme, that the one supreme is God, and that he is trying to unite the galaxies. And in that sense, it's not a scientific, but a religious sort of reality, a spiritual reality versus a scientific one. And, I could argue either case, particularly with the angel and particularly with her comments about, the one being, the one supreme and the rest. It's like a kind of modern art. You look at it for a long time and you say, what do you make of this exactly? But it's there. You just have to say, what do I make of it? And I've come to the one or the other, and you could flip a coin as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Why have you, maybe I should ask this on air, but why have you since then stayed away from UFO books?
Because I don't think there's another story like this. I think not to be pompous or whatever, I think I wrote the UFO book. I think this is the story. And I just don't think I could write a better book because I don't think I could ever find a better story.
Interesting.
I mean, this is a pretty good rendering of what happened to these people, and it's prolonged, it's sustained. It's two people, not just one. It's two credible people who have passed through lie detector tests, et cetera, et cetera. The story is fantastic, but the detail is incredible. The retrogressive hypnosis is incredible. Even the conscious experience. So you have experiences that are conscious and subconscious. There's no other story I know of like this. And I keep an eye out for all this. I just think this is an important story, and says more about what is really happening than anything I've seen. It's not because I wrote it; it's because of the story.
Yeah. No, I could see that. I mean, in your mind, you found perfection in it, and I guess respectfully, I can totally understand the reason behind that. I think that's wonderful. I really do. But
I just don't think I could do better. How about anything I did after this, if it were another story or some compilation of stories, I just don't think I'll ever come across. And maybe at least at this stage of the game, I don't think there are many stories with the breadth and the like I said, a glimpse into another reality.
Right. How did
crazy?
How did this,
crazy stuff?
But how did this story change you personally?
Well, I first of all, I believe in I believe that there are extraterrestrials. That's beyond question for me. But I also have to say, and I struggle with the answer to this, but I believe in life after death. I believe in a spiritual world. I believe that we have been watched for thousands of years, since the creation of mankind. I believe in some sense that's biblical. Do you know what I mean? In some weird perspective, that's the way it comes out on paper, trying to capture these concepts that are so large. So I think it's made me more spiritual.
See, I would tend to agree with that. Going from my own personal, like I've always had a big belief in God.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm different now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how to explain that, but I feel more spiritual. I'm still God-fearing, but I still feel more spiritually connected that I've gone down this road.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes all kinds of sense.
All right, we have about a minute to go here.
I had a bit of an experience, nothing like this, nothing like your experience of this, but just again a tiny one.
Hold on to that. I'll ask that right off the bat.
Okay.
As we got about a minute here.
And then I have this quote from Norman Mailer that's only a couple of lines, but I think it's very profound.
Absolutely. All right. Big thank you to Chad, to Spooky, to Flash Forward, Jenny, Kira, Sally, Dirt Road, Murray, Space Cow, and Kat for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do. Another great way to support us is hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you haven't already. It helps us out. And you can do a little shopping, get your Spaced Out Radio swag on our website, spacedoutradio.com/shop, because we'd love to see you in our gear. We really would. It's kind of cool when that happens. I get all giddy and childlike and, fist pump and all that. Thank you to all the veterans who listen to our show. We really do appreciate you. You always have a safe home here with us in our chat room, and all our regulars. You guys are just the best. You make this so much fun nightly. Get your horns up. We're going to get rocking here in 3 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that you can check us out on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on KPNL, TalkStream Live, and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Salmagundi. Salmagundi is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including Rocking Out to Bumblefoot, and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, author Ron Felber is with us. The Mojave Incident. It's a book that can be found on Amazon and his website. And I'm telling you, this is a true story and of an amazing encounter that you don't want to miss. It's one you want to add to your library. Ron, welcome back.
Good to be here.
Have you personally ever had an experience?
Nothing of the magnitude of the Giffords, anything like that, or yours. But I would be interested in getting retrogressed, because I had a dream. And some dreams are just so vivid and so real to you. And this was the dream. I was living near the beach at the time, and there was a pond near the house where I was living. And in the dream, I walked the dog, our dog, and we came to the pond. So I looked down into the pond, and maybe it was 30 feet deep or less than that even. And there was this white object, this round object that was at the bottom of the pond. And this is a dream, but again, very vivid. And so I said, I put the dog on a post, and I jumped in, which is really crazy, even in a dream, because the water's going to be pretty cold and it's not going to be a great experience. But as soon as I jumped in, I found myself in this craft. And there were beings a lot like the ones that we've described, who took me around like for a tour, showed me equipment and showed me various instruments, that were used. And the reason I remember this was that after that dream, and then I came back again. After that dream, for a month, I was euphoric. I just had this incredible sense of euphoria, which I've never had before. And so I had to think that dream meant something and was real in some way. And I believe that if I were retrogressed, there'd be a story behind that.
Wow. Do you want to be retrogressed?
Yeah. Well, I'll figure that out. It's just been kind of hectic, but I'm gonna do that for sure.
During the break, you said something very profound as to why you haven't dipped back into the UFO world regarding stories and UFOs. You just do not think that there is another story out there like this. I'm very curious as to why you feel that this is the perfect story for you to kind of go through and step away from it like a one and done situation.
Yeah, it is. I have not lost interest in this. I watch every possible show on UFOs and alien abductions. I read every book. So it's not like I've walked away from the subject. But this is how I feel. I just know I'll never come across another story like this. My own view is that this is, like I said, almost like an orchestra, almost like a ballet or something on a large stage. You're seeing all of these things go on, and it's like a glimpse into another reality. And not just through retrogressive hypnosis. Half of it is brought out through retrogressive hypnosis. But you got to remember, for 4 hours before that, these people were conscious, pinching themselves. Do you see what I see? Can this be real? Are we crazy? Are we in hell? So what you have is a huge scope and breadth. What you have are two credible people that have passed lie detector tests, that have been analyzed by psychiatrists, that have been retrogressed. And a story that answers things, doesn't just ask questions. When you ask, when is this encounter between humans and aliens going to happen? She says, in your child's lifetime. And that's a pretty direct answer. Who says this? The one supreme. Who is the one supreme? Is it like a president? Is it an emperor? It's like a god. Why he wants to combine the 5 galaxies. He wants to have them live in harmony. And it brings up a quote, Dave, that I find really captures something. This is an old quote from 1992 on the David Frost Show with Norman Mailer, the author who won a couple of Pulitzer Prizes, and many people consider a great writer. This is the quote, and apply it to this story. The devil might be a presence from another universe. We might be fighting an implacable enemy out there, and the devil might be the agent of the implacable enemy, with God as the tired general fighting that war with his own agents of hope. Isn't that an incredible quote?
When Mrs. Gifford started quoting all of this, I know they are Mormon now, but were they religious people?
No, they were just, they were, I wouldn't say they were anti-religion. They were just sort of, people that believed in God, but I don't, not spiritual, not a member of any congregation or anything like that.
Right. Okay. So the fact that they were able to, this scared them enough. Maybe that's the wrong term, but let's just say this scared them enough to turn towards religion to find answers. Did you ever talk to them why they chose Mormonism over any other one?
No, I don't know the answer to that, except that I think that they had a relationship or got a relationship, maybe were referred to a particular bishop that counseled them. Right. And really, they counseled them and said this was, as I mentioned before, I think there are 2 ways to look at this. If you take the story at face value, one is that these are extraterrestrials and what you've seen is just a reality. And in former times, prophets, etc., misinterpreted all of this and gave it a tremendous religious connotation. And so it's either this or that. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, there are things about it that certainly support what Mailer's talking about, this battle between good and evil. And then on the other hand, I mean, these saucers and these motherships, etc., these are physical things that have science and technology behind them. And so as a primitive, as we are, we see this stuff and say, we don't understand it.
Buy one, get one for $1 at McDonald's. Or as we like to call it, the can't have just one deal. Mix and match a sausage biscuit, sausage McGriddles, McChicken biscuit, chicken McGriddles, or crispy hash browns. Want 2 sausage biscuits? Buy one, get one for $1. Want a sausage biscuit and hash browns? That's cool too. Choose more of what you love. Buy one, get one for $1 at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
It must be heaven sent or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I really don't know where to go with that. I mean, just the fact that they were able through them to bring in the religious connotation, which doesn't happen with a lot of different people who are abducted.
Right.
And taken.
No, absolutely not. But still, I mean, it has elements, and maybe it's like this. It depends. There's a guy who wrote a book it's called From What Seat You're Sitting, from where you're sitting. In other words, if you're sitting and seeing something and you're over here, you see it a certain way. If you're sitting over here from this particular seat, your belief system, you see it this way. If I had to take a guess at what the reality of it is, I mean, there's no saying that. And by the way, they also say that these beings have been watching us for thousands of years. So guess would be that these are extraterrestrial creatures, that they're more spiritual in nature than we realize, that they've been here forever, maybe since the beginning of humankind, and that in some ways they intercede. Now, if you take that from a religious context, you can make a case. Well, they're angels, they're devils, they're this or that. So it depends what seat you're looking at it from. My own view is that there are other galaxies, that there are visitors, aliens that have visited our planet. I believe a lot in what Francis Crick, who founded the double helix of DNA, got the Nobel Prize in Science. He believes in direct transpermia. And what that is that we're aliens, that at the end, he said that the odds of evolution being true, meaning creating the human brain from a swamp and amoebas or whatever, is equivalent to having a tornado go through a junkyard, leave behind an assembled 747 jet that takes off and goes to Europe. He thinks that the time frames could not possibly be to create the human brain. He believes that meteors and asteroids were sent around the universe containing DNA, the DNA for human beings, which really was alien DNA, and that DNA required, far less time than an amoeba. That basically the DNA for intelligence, the DNA for all of these things was sort of pre-mixed in there to flourish. I believe that. I think that's a very reasonable theory. And that goes to the heart of a lot of this and sort of explains a lot of things. Maybe we're the children of aliens.
It opens up such a Pandora's box, I mean, with everything. And I look at ufology today and I see the dangers of opening up that Pandora's box to even more. When you hear this story and you hear the stories of others that maybe aren't as detailed, do you really think, now that you are a believer, that the 7.8 billion people on this planet are very much ready for any sort of ET contact?
I think that we're being acclimated. If you look from the 40s to the 50s to the 60s to now, you've gone from some blurry pictures, of something that looks like a saucer, to really good films and videos, to really credible people, law enforcement people, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Fife Symington. These are not irresponsible people that have seen UFOs and reported them. So then you talk about abductions, Betty and Barney Hill, and you talk about where we are now with millions, probably worldwide millions of people saying, I've been abducted. We're moving very close to what Elise Gifford talked about, that in our children's lifetime, there will be an encounter, whether we're ready for it or not. But I think the time frame is really tightening.
I talked to a source of mine a number of months ago who is very close to this UFO front on a government level. And I asked him the pertinent question, why now? After 4 years since the whole movement with the New York Times article and everything, I said, why now? And he said to me, he goes, why do you think? I said, well, I have two possibilities. Number one, we're in for a false flag invasion, which could start a world war, or, start to make a lot of changes on the planet that we don't want to happen or have happen. I said, but I'm not really believing that. I said, number two, I said, I think that the United States government has been given a timeline. And I said, I strongly believe that. That one feels quite right, because there's no reason to open up this vault the last 4 years after 70-plus years of cover-up. And he pretty much said, he goes, go with your gut feeling. You know, he goes, I can't tell you anymore. He goes, but if I were you, I would go with your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Now, whether he's playing me or not because of his position, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting question, but again, it fits, doesn't it? It fits into the timeline that of being, acclimated to the fact that there are aliens. Even you take polls now. I mean, if you ask people, has the Earth been visited by aliens? You ask them in the 1940s, I bet 5% would say yes. If you ask them now, I'll bet you 70%. Maybe, somewhere between 60 and 70% would say yes.
But
that's quite a leap.
But back then, though, we were still a very religious society. You're going back then where, women were getting their bathing suits measured at the beach to make sure they weren't close to the knee, because Lord knows the knee could sure turn a man on back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. So do you think then that what we are seeing in ufology today is healthy for the public? Or do you see it as something that there is a narrative being played here? We got to watch out for whatever that narrative is.
I think it's inevitable. From a government's point of view, what do you do with cameras all over the place like we have now and didn't have? Video recorders, cell phones that you can take photos of. I think that the weight of just all of these people that have had experiences becomes heavy. And I think at some point in time, the dam bursts and they at least let the water out slowly. But part of it is, okay, here are 3 or 4 videos recorded, by jet fighter pilots. These, again, are not just frivolous people, And I think we're very near. So let's say in the next, I think in the next 50 years, within the next 50 years, there will certainly be a human to alien encounter that's very open and very much real.
Well, I'm hoping so. I just don't know, like I said, whether or not the public is ready. The public likes to talk tough. Everybody likes to talk tough on the internet. The majority of the people, even in ufology, are claiming, we're ready for it. They've never had an experience on their own, Ron. They don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
So I think there's that great debate that continues to go on. Kaiju has a question for you. How do you personally imagine the reveal to happen?
That's really a good question. I mentioned this before. People say, well, I'll believe in this when a spaceship lands on the White House lawn and an alien comes out and meets the president. That's when I'll believe this is true. I think something like that will happen. I think there'll be a major event. I don't think it'll be, thousands of UFOs or craft coming in some kind of takeover. I think it will be almost like a diplomat. And I could imagine a speech being given at the United Nations.
It has to happen that way.
I don't know another. That's the only way that you could avert. If that happened and it were put out in the right way within the next 50 years. So imagine, a lot will happen that acclimates us even more. But I think the other thing that drives this is what Elise said. They'll start caring when we stop caring about the Earth. And I think we're not far from saying we're not caring.
Well, if you see the way we're treating our planet today, not to go all environmental,
exactly.
But you see the way we're treating our planet today, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. No, Yeah, I think that, like I said, maybe we're the offspring of an alien civilization, and this would go back to Frick's theory. And if we are, we're the children of these beings, and if we're in a kind of brotherhood or childhood, probably child by comparison, I think they probably care about humans. And maybe they don't have emotions like ours. And maybe the reason they're studying emotions like ours is to make this communication happen in a way that doesn't totally freak out the world.
Did you ever read a book by Philip Kraft called, oh goodness, what's it called now? About his ET encounters with the Verdants?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Philip Kraft was 34 years. He worked for the LA Times and didn't believe in any of this, and all of a sudden, one weekend, his wife goes away and he gets taken for 3 days. And he is shown everything, including, which is very interesting to what you worked on with this story, was about God. And these Verdants claim that they actually know where heaven is in the solar system.
Wow.
And they've been there. And it's a great story. Anybody wants to check it out. Philip passed away now. But he wrote this story in the late 90s, going into the 2000s when the contact was supposed to be made. Then 9/11 happened, and it screwed everything up regarding the Verdants ET contact, but it is quite worth it. Quite worth the read.
I'll take a look for it.
Yeah, Krapf is his last name. Krapf.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
Do me a favor. We got 40 seconds left. Let everybody know where they can find the Mojave incident and the rest of your books.
Yeah, well, I have a website. It's Ron Felber, FELBER.com. It's pretty simple. My books are on Amazon. They're on Barnes & Noble. If you just go to the internet and put in Ron Felber, RONFELBER, you'll see a lot of ways that these books can be purchased, and particularly the Mojave incident, which really has been just people are fascinated by it, and it's been selling, for quite a long time.
Well, Ron, we appreciate you coming into Spaced Out Radio, and this was my first time interviewing you, and I'm just so impressed with your knowledge and your ability to tell us this story. Thank you so much. We appreciate
My pleasure,
you.
David.
Coming up next, we have John Hudson. He's got his fedora on. He's ready for the UFO report. We have Shirky Boo's news, thought of the day, the jam-packed third and final half hour of this show tonight. So stick around. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. That was fantastic, my friend.
A lot of fun.
I've
got a new book. I'm just, it's finished, and I'm just in the process of finding a publisher. I have 4 publishers interested, but it's a really interesting story. It came to me from Bill Blatty, William Peter Blatty from The Exorcist.
Right.
He gave me an account that happened in Boston at Harvard University. It was studied by Harvard University from 1898 to 1904. The great psychologist William James was part of the team that examined this woman. And it's a sort of a murder mystery with the paranormal written all through it.
Really?
And it's just an incredible true story. It's called The Unwelcomed, The Curious Case of Clara Fowler.
Oh, if you want to come back on, man, we would actually like to get you on to talk some true crime stories that you've written too.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you say. I'm very interested.
Yeah, I'll get my team to check in with you in a couple of months.
Yeah,
because we try and do like a 4 to 5 month rotation, as you know, and then we'll bring you back in to check it on out.
Sounds great.
Yeah, my friend. You take care. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ronald Felber, everyone. How good of a story and show was that? That was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. He's a good one. Oh, there's Fedora John. Look at him. This is a guy who You can right now, every time he goes to karaoke, you know he's going to sing the song Feelings.
Oh, there you are. Forgot to put my earpiece in. Apologies.
Oh. Hi, Fedora John.
How you doing, sir?
Good. You look scrambled tonight. Are you happy?
I had kind of a rough night.
Do you need a hug?
Yeah, if you were close, maybe. But doing all right.
Yeah, I had a rough night, too. I have a rough night, too, dude.
How you feeling?
Like shit.
Oh, that's lovely.
Well, I feel great. If I could carve this portion out, actually, it's about from the nose through the throat and this part of the chest. If I carve that part out, I'd be good.
You know, I have to admit, I know a lot of people don't talk about this, but one of the rare benefits of being on any kind of ADD medication is the chemicals in it are very, very similar. They're not exactly the same, but it's very similar to cold medication.
Oh, wow.
And so it's basically like you're perpetually on a decongestant. And I used to have perpetual stuffy noses, and my nose so rarely gets stuffed these days. It's actually quite an awesome blessing. Oh, very nice.
How's the Pepsi in the Coke bottle?
Actually, that is black cherry Pepsi.
Oh, wow.
Which I've never had before. I just got it tonight, and actually kind of impressed with it. Yeah, so actually it's pretty good.
I'm going to get you to do most of the talking tonight.
Yeah, that's no problem. So unfortunately, I missed a bunch of that show, but it sounded like it was going really well. You have a good time?
Oh, God, he was fantastic.
Oh no, he sounded like a great guy and good
yeah.
background and everything.
Great guy. That was a good pickup by Filth and Cat. Good guy.
Yeah. No, they're kicking butt, man.
They are. They're kicking some serious butt right now. I look at the schedule for November, and they've almost got it done right now.
Nice.
It's phenomenal. They are doing
very
so
nice.
well. So well. We're still looking for one person, though, to add to our booking team. So if anybody in our chat room has interest in wanting to join our booking team as a volunteer, let me know.
Takes a special kind of person.
It does. It's not hard work. It's not a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but it is a dedicated job. That is for sure.
And there's challenging aspects of it.
There very much is. Very much is. We got about 40 seconds.
But the ones that are good at it hit a groove. So if it's your thing, you'll love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Big thank you to Chad, Spooky, Flash, Jenny, Kira, Sally, Dirt Road, Murray, Space Cow, and Kat for the amazing super chats. Remember, you can hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and do a little shopping at our store on our website. Check it on out as well. Thank you to everybody making this fun and special tonight. Let's rock and roll here and get things going. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's time once again for the Unbiased UFO Report. The fedora-wearing John Hudson is back once again with us to give us all the latest news on what is happening around the UFO world. And, John, it's always a pleasure to have you back. How was your weekend, my friend?
Weekend was lovely. Thanks for asking, and happy to be here, and thank you everyone for sticking around. It's going to be kind of interesting news stories tonight.
Oh, absolutely, my friend.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now.
The Ford Mustang Mach-E, the F-150 Lightning, the E-Transit van, 3 of America's most iconic popular vehicles. They've been fully electrified, and they're making the revolutionary feel familiar. We've got a feeling they'll help make electric vehicles even more popular for all Americans. Call it a hunch. Ford electric vehicles, built for America, built Ford proud.
Absolutely, and thank you for doing this once again.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's fun. But the truth is, I was doing this anyway, so I'm just sharing what I already do.
And you're damn good at it too, my friend, and our audience absolutely loves you. Let's start off with Dan Aykroyd. What's happening there?
Well, this is more of a gift, I guess, to those of us that are Dan Aykroyd fans that have seen some of his interviews and know his interest, and have been sitting here wondering, well, why on earth hasn't that bugger done any content, right? I mean, like what better person could there be to bring in some good UFO documentaries, movies, whatever? And so basically, there was this article came out, which I'll provide the link for. And what it does is it goes into a detailed interview of Mr. Aykroyd, where he explains that he actually did. Basically, in the early 2000s, he was the executive producer of a show called Out There with Dan Aykroyd. And they not only got the contract, got it signed, got the budget. It was all done with Sci-Fi, but they actually had 8 episodes done. Like, I mean, basically, they were just finishing up the end of the first season, like completely ready to go, and the whole thing got canceled. And because it is owned by Sci-Fi, he has no ability to get it back or to air it, and they have opted not to. And he doesn't even know if it still exists.
Why did it get canceled?
He never got a good story. He was completely shocked by it. I mean, just carpet yanked right out from under his feet. There might have been, he alluded to some possible changes in leadership. He had a couple guesses as to what was going on, but he did, along with it, give a short Men in Black possible story where he claims he was at another another location, and he was outside on his cell phone, and believe it or not, at the time he was talking to Britney Spears. I don't know what the story is there, but that's who he was talking to. And he saw across the street 2 men in black suits in a black car looking at him rather aggressively. And it stunned him, like it shocked him. And basically he basically turned around, or something caught his attention, or a truck drove by. I don't remember what it was, but something blocked his view for a minute. And when he looked again, it was gone. And this happened right around the same time that the show got canceled. So, that's just, a fun anecdotal story, but I just find it very interesting that he did work on something. He talks a little bit about it. Sounds like it was a real passion project for him. I'm betting it was very good content, a little outdated at this point, but I'd still love to see it. And to those of you that are Aykroyd fans like me, this is why you have not seen anything from Dan Aykroyd.
I'm really surprised, though, with the opening up of this field that he hasn't come back. I really am. Now, he may have other projects, and of course he has his Crystal Skull vodka and business.
Well, he is working on something.
Right now.
Yes, he is working on something, a project that has to do with the aerial school. And I don't know what the status is of it, but I know he is working on a or at least he was, as of last year, working on a documentary film about the aerial school. but I haven't heard any updates yet.
That would be interesting. I mean, we know this is a very close story to his family. We know his father and I believe his grandfather were both ex-Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and they've had a lot of experiences in the Aykroyd family with UFOs. But his story of this getting canceled, it reminds me of, what's the gentleman's name? Bill from UFO Hunters. Remember the TV show UFO Hunters?
Oh, yeah.
Bill Burns. And
Yep.
Bill Burns saying that show, which was number 1 in ratings for A&E at the time, got canceled by the Men in Black. And Bill remembers being on location where a man in black came up to him, and they were at their second to last episode. He said, according to Bill, I'm paraphrasing here, the man in black said, "You better get what you can in here because you don't have a show next year." Yeah.
Wow.
And if you go back in our archives from a couple of years ago when we interviewed Bill Burns, he actually talks about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I got to look into that.
Show,
that's actually, wow.
Yeah.
Because like Aykroyd's story about the show getting canceled and then this coincidental, potential viewing he saw, that's more akin to what I usually hear. The fact that this person that Burns talked actually commented to him about it, that's a whole different level of intimidation.
Yeah, and unfortunately Bill Burns has had some health issues over the last few years, but I mean, I would absolutely love to chat with him about that, and even Dan Aykroyd about that. I mean, we got to get our team on trying to get Aykroyd. We've tried,
especially
before.
with the whole fellow Canadian thing, right? Like you got to have an angle there somewhere.
Well, I know. I'm trying. We're trying here, but that's okay. That's okay. All right, next story. Our good friend Thomas Fessler has interviewed Luis Elizondo about a number of things. Did you catch that?
I caught about 75% of it. I haven't finished it yet, but I caught about 75% of it. I highly recommend that interview. One of the things I loved about that interview is that for the first maybe 15 minutes or so, what they actually all talked about was essentially PTSD and the challenges of being an experiencer, having a rough childhood, and how that relates to people in combat. And Luis Elizondo and Thomas Fessler and his other co-host, who I don't remember the name of, all told some very personal stories. It was quite touching, and it was very interesting. It was a very kind of different start to a UFO program.
No, for sure, and the fact that he was able to get Lou to talk about experiences, I think Lou. I'll bite my tongue on this for saying this, but I really wish Lou would come out as an experiencer. I personally, I have zero proof that he is, but all the signs point to that he is.
I think, unfortunately, that even if he didn't do it on purpose, I think he would look at the information coming out about his remote viewing as a test run to see what the reaction would be. And I would argue that based on the reaction that we're seeing from the information about the remote viewing, that has completely ended any chances of him coming out as an experiencer, because it's been ugly and it's been very unhelpful for his credibility.
Well,
which is a shame.
It really is, because we need Lou to open up. We don't need closed door Lou anymore. We need Lou Elizondo to open up. And what are some of the comments out there that are happening regarding his potential about remote viewing?
Basically, I mean, I've talked to several people that have essentially, for them, he's lost complete credibility. They flat out are now questioning everything he said.
Really?
Because from their point of view, remote viewing is a complete myth. It's a complete facade. It was a CIA boondoggle. That there's no evidence for it whatsoever. And if he's into that kind of thing, then how can you trust anything he said? It's bad. I mean, it really. And I'm talking about we're talking about I would argue a fairly small percentage, but it's enough people being vocal about it that there's a lot of other people who aren't being vocal about it, and I'm a little actually concerned about it, to be very honest.
Well, that's the problem right now. I mean, anything Lou does now is going to be raked over the coals with such scrutiny. I mean, he could come out and say, look, I've been to Zeta Reticuli on a craft, and this is what the planet looks like. This is what's going on there. There are a number of humans there. There's military members there, and they're all working together and whatever. And nobody's going to believe him.
Well, he could say, I went out for pizza this afternoon and got a pineapple and pepperoni pizza, and there'd be people calling every pizza joint in the area to verify that's actually what he ordered. I mean, it's ridiculous, the level of scrutiny this poor guy's under.
I mean, I agree, though, and Matthew brings up a good point here. He goes, Lou should be heavily scrutinized. He's a counterintelligence guy, and I agree somewhat with that. But, I mean, the problem that I have, and I'm not trying to let Lou off the hook here, okay? The problem that I have is the more someone like Lou Elizondo opens up publicly, the more we are going to disengage from him and criticize.
Agreed.
That's
absolutely true.
The problem.
That's absolutely true.
That is
I
the
agree.
problem that we have. Like if he had let's say he took 30 or 50 people from the UFO world and put them in a conference room, and he said, gentlemen, ladies, non-binaries, this is what's going on. This is what happened to me. This is the truth. It cannot go further than this room, but this is the truth. Here is the proof. Here's the photographs. Here's the videos. I think that would almost be a better situation for him.
Quite possibly, but the problem is that there's a lot of things happening in Washington right now that are being done based on his credibility. And so even if the people in Congress don't see it as a ding, if a congressman suddenly starts getting a flood of phone calls, why on earth are you listening to this guy who believes in witches and mythical dragons and stuff like that because he does remote viewing? It's going to cause a problem. So it's a tough situation for sure.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on here, my friend, as we are going to get into automated deadly force countermeasures. This doesn't sound very fun.
So this really caught me off guard. So first off, this is a wonderful article written by a Rolling Stone individual whose name I actually, sorry, man. Whoever you are, I sincerely apologize. I should have made a note of that. But I did link the article in my notes, and it's a great article. You should definitely read it. And basically, what it talks about is that there were some documents pulled through FOIA and so forth as to what was really going on behind the scenes when we had that whole Storm Area 51 thing, right? Because it was really kind of unclear to all of us, like how real it was, what its actual goals were, and then what was going on at the government side as into responding to it. And it turns out the response was a little more serious than I think a lot of us expected. It turns out that there were not only a significant number of meetings between many, many different institutions and agencies, FBI, Homeland, DI, quite a long list of people who were involved. There were planning sessions done. And there were specifically documents given out showing the layers of protection that were put in, and specifically mentioning the fact that there are automated deadly countermeasures installed that they don't have control over, essentially. And so they were basically making it very clear that if you let anyone run onto the base, if anyone gets by you, they're not going to survive, is what they were basically telling these agencies. And on top of that, which is already pretty dark, it turns out that one of the things it documents is that there was actually a group of YouTubers, that's what they call them, they don't mention who they are, that actually attempted to install a tracker on an Area 51 transport bus. And also tried to identify employees that lived on the bus in an attempt to follow them home. So there were people doing some kind of guerrilla-ish, investigation of ways to actually really compromise Area 51 that the agencies were very, very aware of and were monitoring very closely. And unfortunately, even if that was a small group, that put everybody in danger. And to me, it's just, I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, I figured they were preparing for it at some level, but it's like, but it turns out they took it a lot more seriously than I thought they did. And I'm very pleased that no one was injured.
Were those YouTubers ever identified?
They were not identified in the document. It is implied from the document that they were identified internally.
So they snuck up to an Area 51 bus
and tried to put a tracker on it.
How stupid do you have to be when you're surrounded by people? Like, what do you do? Just go lean on the bus and pretend that you're, like, taking a nap against it or using it for shade in the middle of the desert?
Well, and the fact that they knew that they were trying to identify employees to follow them home means that they were listening on their phones. So, like, what were you using? Were you just, like, calling people and just going, oh, yeah, we're going to track these? I mean, come on. I mean, I question people's thought process sometimes.
Unbelievable.
It boggles the mind. It totally boggles the mind.
That could have been a lot more dangerous than what we thought.
Oh, it could have turned, especially because very often when one person runs, multiple people run. And so, you could have had an event where like live on YouTube, you saw, 10, 20, people mowed down in a very graphic way. Now, hopefully they wouldn't have let them get that far. That's why all the agencies were being involved. But the point was, if they got far enough, there was going to be an automated deadly reaction to it.
So basically, the best case scenario happened where everybody just gathered for a party and posing for pictures with law enforcement and military agencies and just said, we're not going in. We know we can't go in.
And not many people showed up. I mean, it was still a good number of people, but it wasn't anywhere near the numbers that people were talking about. So partly because the environment couldn't support it,
Well, you know what? At least it happened, and I mean, hearing about that right now is pretty scary, John. But nonetheless,
but it ended well. So, we can all laugh and grin and everyone had a good time and nothing happened, but it is definitely something to think about. If anyone decides to make a run on Wright-Patterson, Kesha, we're
you never know.
Heads up.
You never know. I don't think she'll be allowed back on there anytime soon. She's not as famous as she was 10 years ago.
No. And they probably have her picture up now.
You got that right, John. Stick around for the after show. We'll get to the news right now. All right, let's get to Shirky Poo's news and close this thing out. A glass vase purchased for $4.99 at a thrift store in the Pacific Northwest is expected to sell for up to $15,000 after it was identified as a rare piece from 1902. Heritage Auction said the October 28th Tiffany, Lalique, and Art Glass, including Art Nouveau and Art Deco auction, will feature a rare Lotz Argus glass vase designed by Austrian Koloman Moser, a participant in the Vienna Secession art movement. The Lotz Argus glass vase is one of the finest examples of this rare and important model to come to market. It does so following its unlikely discovery at a thrift store in the Pacific Northwest by a shopper with an exceptionally discerning eye. Samantha Robertson, consignment director of decorative arts and design for Heritage, stated the vase is expected to get between 10 and 15 grand when it goes up for auction. All right. The country of Colombia is actually going to be sterilizing dozens of hippopotamuses originally introduced to the country by notorious drug cartel kingpin Pablo Escobar. Colombia's Regional Autonomous Corporation of the Negro and Nair Rivers, an environmental agency, announced the sterilizations of 24 of more than 80 hippos residing in the rivers near Escobar's former Hacienda Naples compound last week. 3 decades ago, Escobar, then the leader of the infamous Medellin cartel, illegally imported the hippos for his private zoo, along with lions, giraffes, and a number of exotic animals, and birds. The move comes as the country's hippo population continues to explode, with some estimating that there could be more than 1,400 hippos by the year 2039. Over the past year, researchers have argued that without intervention, the invasive hippos posed a significant threat to the surrounding ecosystem. How weird is that? All right, let's get to another one here quickly here. A Wisconsin farmer grew a 2,520-pound pumpkin, believed to be the heaviest grown in the country this year, but it's been disqualified from competition due to a crack. Yes, Mike Schmidt said he has been growing giant pumpkins for years, but this year marked the first time one of his gourds surpassed 2,500 pounds. Schmidt's 2,520-pound pumpkin is believed to be the largest grown in the U.S. this year, but it was disqualified due to a fingernail-sized crack in the vegetable's exterior. The grower said the crack is believed to be a result of internal pressure from the pumpkin's large size and the awkward way it was growing. The pumpkin could have earned Schmidt a $22,680 prize from Safeway if it would have continued. But nonetheless, he is disqualified. Nope, that gourd, not too good. Big thank you to Captain Shirk for Shirky Poo's news, John Hudson for the UFO report, and of course, Ron Felber talking about the Mojave incident. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone checking us out in our chat rooms, YouTube, Twitch, LGAM, Facebook, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. But if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
Hey, Tom. I'm heading to Walmart, because you know what season it is.
Oh, is it pumpkin spice season?
No, it's flu season, and Walmart gives flu shots.
Yes, flu season is here, and we've got your back with flu shots where you already shop. Our expert pharmacy team administers each flu shot and can answer your vaccine questions. Stay safe this flu season. Stop by your local Walmart pharmacy and get your flu shot today.
Now that football season's here, it's time to put some serious thought into what you'll be ordering from Uber Eats. Whatever's on your game day menu this NFL season, Uber Eats has you covered. They'll deliver whatever you order quickly and just how you want it, so you can stay in the game. Tonight, I'll be eating Uber Eats, the official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Uber Eats is bringing you game day deals all season. Order now,